The band Radiohead has created a name for themselves by weaponizing millennial angst and paranoia into groundbreaking album releases, as well as by reinventing the musical wheel again and again. Today I will be explaining how Radiohead manages to create groundbreaking album releases. To prepare for this speech, I did extensive research on Radiohead, and I listened to the albums mentioned just to figure out what makes them so good. According to the Best Selling Album website, Radiohead has sold 21.3 million albums worldwide. And according to a June 2017 Rolling Stones article by Andy Greene, OK Computer is cited as the last masterpiece of the alt-rock movement. This shows the impact of their albums. Today I will be explaining how Radiohead has created groundbreaking album releases. First, I will tackle how avoiding the spotlight led to back-to-back successes with 1997's OK Computer and 2000's Kid A. Then we will be shifting the spotlight onto In Rainbows, an album that explored a brand new streaming format, the pay-what-you-want format. According to a March 2017 Pitchfork article by Mark Hogan, after 4 years of touring, Radiohead had already sold 4.5 million copies of their 1997 album, OK Computer. This was the summer of 1997, and Thom Yorke was catatonic by this point. The touring was closing in on him. The claustrophobia, having no sense of reality at all, is how Thom Yorke described it in that same June 2017 Rolling Stones article by Andy Greene. He hated the spotlight, and he hated his own abilities during tour. He would tell himself in the mirror, "You're shit. Everything you do is shit." He was paranoid of a coming century that would be filled with digital technology like the cell phone and the computer, and didn't know what to do with himself. So he decided to pack this fear into an album that became increasingly more about tech taking over the world. This album's more relevant than ever today, with social media dictating our lives and with Americans spending more and more time on their phones each day. But Thom Yorke didn't want all this popularity. So he decided to take a sonic detour, thinking that if he changed the sound of the album, then maybe people wouldn't buy as many. This was what became Kid A. Kid A was different. It was electronic, the vocals were sparse, there was distortion all over the album. But why? In an August 2001 Rolling Stone piece by David Fricke, Yorke cites a lyric from Everything in Its Right Place, the opener on the album, to sum up what was going on in the process of making this. Yesterday I woke up sucking a lemon. It's a lyric off of that song. He goes on to say that some people say it's gibberish. It's not. Well, then what is it about? Thom Yorke says it's about the paralysis he felt during the OK Computer tour on the tour bus, which eventually caused him to abandon friendships over the content of Kid A because he was so distressed, because he wanted to make an album that was perfect and just right, and that he had control over, because he felt like he didn't have it in his life. Kid A had long riffs, paralyzing vocals of an inhuman nature, and most of all was an album of despair that reflected the touring attitude at the time. Now that I have discussed Kid A and OK Computer and what went into making them, I will now move the spotlight onto In Rainbows and the pay-what-you-want streaming format, which was a first of its kind. In Radiohead's experimental nature, they let fans choose what to pay for their 2007 release, In Rainbows, just a decade after OK Computer's success. They could pay nothing if they wanted, and a majority did that. According to a 2017 NME article, 60 to 70% of fans still downloaded the album illegally, even though they had the chance to pay nothing for it. But with that being said, the album was definitely not a failure. In a 2017 Wired magazine interview, Yorke says that they made more money out of this record than out of all the other Radiohead albums put together, out of everything that they did online. In essence, they changed the landscape of the music industry forever, with artists now being able to choose how they wanted to distribute their music. This also impacted CEO of Warner Music Group, Edgar Bronfman, who wrote a piece in May 2008 for Time magazine, stating that the traditional record label business model, the one of controlling access and distribution, is now dead. Radiohead had done that. Now that they had had an independent success since they had broke away from their label EMI a couple years earlier, other bands could hopefully now follow, and it set a new precedent. He goes on in his article and actually closes it by saying that with a single bold experiment, Radiohead revealed a broad array of possibilities for experiencing and monetizing music in the future. Today I explained how Radiohead used their hatred of fame and touring as a weapon on OK Computer and Kid A. Then went on to talk about how they revolutionized streaming with In Rainbows, an album where fans could choose how much they wanted to pay. Radiohead has gone on to sell 750,000 copies with their most recent release, 2016's Moonshaped Pool. And Thom Yorke has started a side project called The Smile, which released an album this year called A Light for Attracting Attention that was met with critical acclaim. Radiohead has managed to harness impending doom and tour anxiety and turn it into something magical, beautiful, with OK Computer and Kid A. And just a decade after OK Computer was released, they decided to reinvent the wheel once again with the pay what you want model so fans can enjoy their music without the label.